Hey guys, how's it going? Pervert Murderer Professor Fun 101 here with Paraconomy Live. I just got out of the shower and I said, hey, I'm gonna show off my NB side and give you guys some gay midriff. You guys, woo! Look at my belly. I got goddess tattooed on it because I was a goddess for a second. Anyways, how's it going? My accounts are being hacked on the internet. That's right, Alexander P. Costello. With my social security, whatever, and my bank accounts, and whatever, and my PayPal account. So if you know Sadie F or E or something, horse girl with the freaking braids, or Cassandra Sweet, if you know Grace Draminsky, if you know Kat Koshik or Tyler Burrows, you know Sam Cockburn or goddamn Sammy, whatever the hell. Yeah, the living derelicts. If you know any of these people, they all hack my bank accounts. Mike Draminsky, Linda Draminsky, Luann Costello, Daryl Costello, Elise Costello, and a few of the other people involved with all of these people. Now, my dad's an ethical hacker, and Cassie knows somebody named Dakota Edwards. They're all in charge of hacking my internet accounts and profiles, and they, logistically speaking, have been around long enough to know that putting my information on the dark web releases too many variables. So when you have people like this invading your privacy, it's a very self-fulfilling prophecy at whichever end the risk could potentially factor into. But I digress. How's everybody's day going? I hope everybody's having a good morning. They killed my girlfriend, Kate Vogel, out in Chicago, and I'm a whole state or two away in Michigan. And this happened squarely on my birthday to show me that they mean business, but also now I can't get into my bank accounts. So it seems like there could be some potentials for grifting and scamming to make sure that it is very difficult for me to process payments and dues towards my bills. Now, this will start a chain reaction, more than likely to offset the rest of the balance of whatever it could be. Now, there's a neighbor. She's African American, and she is also involved with here at Green Oaks on 1020 Prospect Street. Here in Lansing, Michigan, 48912, there are a lot of us in this apartment complex that deal with ethical hackers and a lot of different people who are attempting to sway the competition towards their benefits of whatever releasement is going on in my conservatorship, this unwarranted and unconsented conservatorship, because this is the way America has been taking care of business. And disclosement, this is how the government wants to utilize the social media in against the algorithm to do a couple of things. One of those things is to divide the people, and the other one is to kind of get things done while they're dividing them. So that's kind of something that we're looking at acclimating here on the jurors union here at Paraconomy Inc. So everybody sees that there is a little bit of disregard for commonality on what it means to follow the rules. Now, even though these rules have been set in the name of justice against somebody they deemed to be a bad human being, as clear as day, you need me to help disclose, well, whatever the heck that thing can do. Because if I just disclosed the finite curve in the last video, utilizing a whole bunch of information that I've just had in experience, and finally rolling out the info delicately as I possibly can, with this sensitivity of a safecracker, I'm attempting to make sure that all of the things that got flipped over in my metaphysical and in my dream world are also coalescing with whatever the banks are stating. Now, my bank account seems fine, but the girls and men, ladies and men on this ESP have been doxing my passwords openly on Paraconomy Inc.'s telepathic line. Sadie, the black girl, Cassie, Jerminski family, Sweet family, the Edwards families, all sorts of different families, Costellos, Mellish's, Wards, especially Cynthia Ward and Nick Ward, and Haley Ward having this dialectical with Lonnie Ward and the rest of the Michigan Senate here at the Supreme Court's right down the street at the Capitol building. Now, it's not hard to kind of triangulate all of these things together, but as you can see, the coalescing of what Sadie, my neighbor upstairs, is doing and whatever the girls over there, the trans girls, that are trying to dialectically snuff me away for my birthday and keep trying to bend the bar against whatever interest that they may be working for. Now, the enterprising and the comparison of copulation towards its unifying, right? They are basically all coming together in accordance to talk about how much they don't like me, and they're conforming to an agenda in order to open up the general dialogue. They want people to be talking about this in the worst ways possible, which is why they've been hacking me, sending me weird vibes from other people from outside of the door, and whatever it is that my several evictions that they've written me up for, and the fact my landlord talks to the same network that my sister's friends talk to, and I'm under the heavy suspicion they're all sleeping with each other. So as I look towards the benefit of the doubt, it shows a lot of weird lines of tracing towards whatever it means in this country to complete the act of fornication via sex magic. Now, this seems to be a big one here, as a lot of these people are a little bit jealous of me. And once they figured out how to open up the door on jealousy and create this stagnation in my lives utilized by narcissistic triangulation, it seems as though these selfish, greedy addicts did just that. They found a new source to become addicted to in their lives of meniality, because in Michigan, there's not much to do. So the next best thing is to find somebody who has stuff to do. Me. Somebody who worked real hard into art college, got behind the scenes on the TikTok fads with Vine and back in the day, and just never really jumped onto this visual format because I was working so hard on audio. I went to school for about 7-8 years, 5 solid years on audio, and like my entire life I've been studying audio and recording, and my parents know that, but they also don't like me. And also they kind of stick to their strengths, which is religious shunning. Now, this is the hypocrisy. If my family is practicing magic and dark arts using things like fornication or international espionage and ethical hacking, it makes as much sense that the religious shunning was supposed to be enough, and it hasn't been. And because all these people have now formulated this narrative that I have continually stepped over the line, even though there are too many rumors surfacing up on my name, but all the results end up with this line of ethical hacking, which lo and behold is very unethical because these people hacked my Dropbox and Snapchat accounts and triangulated this with the Michigan State Health Insurance. The weirdest part is when Chatterbait came down on any of it and Chase Bank said, hey, you have a breach at your end on the Social Security and your licensing. It says that all of these things basically are happening on this dime. And so when we look into some of the things that happened, I got human trafficked on the dark web towards whatever it was once my information was leaked out. Now, this information did get utilized and looked at by the state, so much so that they sent in some fake callers to have me address this Wayfair situation. Now, Wayfair was caught red-handed in the process of human trafficking some things, and it seems like the Wayfair state thing here at the in the capital of Michigan also has some connections to my likeness via Michigan's Michigan Care Insurance on Meridian. Now, when these guys called during one of the right around the abduction of my October 2022 experience here, being gang stalked and manipulated, triangulated by a lot of dark magic and this online military surplus of cognizance, it surfaced into these weird realms where on the phone, after talking about just getting a new thing set up, this lady suspiciously said, a really, really long, drawn-out conversation basically said, we are not liable in case you get human trafficked. Do you agree? I said, hold on, what am I agreeing to? And she said, it's just a formality here at Michigan, for Michigan, and blah, 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 blah. And it was like too much of a coincidence that I said, hey, I'm not going to answer that. Okay, let's keep going. And ever since then, it seems like I could have been the sole, just to get to the fun newer version, I could be the sole reason why Facebook just rolled out this weird LGBT, like mental disabilities rule sheet for for the possible recoil of Project 2025 being voted in here in a few weeks, in a week or two. And that's kind of where we can look at the congruency on what is going on with my bank account, what's happening in science, and how this crystal technology and magic is being co-opted by a lot of the witchcraft community here in Michigan, how all these people got together out in different states where opulence is being the thing everybody's looking for. So if this is the part of the Neuralink or doop here at Paraconomy, is that everybody was here doing doop way before they all started coalescing over at Elon's for things. And this, because my sister works out in Hollywood, she probably ended up having some sex magic with lots of people over my dead body. So like that's an essential amalgamation and enough said to whatever opulence my sister got my rest of my family into via high class crime. Now, if this is the next part of upper middle class luxuries and what the government has been able to triangulate against some of whatever it is they're telling me and they're having me release outwardly using Paraconomy, it makes as much of a sense. It's night and day, and it makes the difference of the whole world of a difference to know of the closure between the conclusions that I'm able to draw and the triangulation and the simplicity of function, knowing that my dad's an ethical hacker. These girls are dating Comic-Con like diehards, and they kind of end up on the wayside of this selective autism. Now, because I've been studying things like gentrification, the civil rights movement, even like hip hop history and other things like that in my performance-based classes, keyboard studies, DJing, it all looks like this. They lead to these parties. Now, these loft parties and these get-togethers are where a lot of people meet up and have conversations about the topics that I'm kind of glazing over. And I, once upon a time, was a part of the inner circles of today's young millionaire clubs. And like, I surrounded myself, and this was hipster fad fresh. So you had to surround yourself with poor people. That's me. I'm one of the styles that got put on by millionaires and co-opted without getting credit, which is now why Hollywood has utilized my likeness, utilizing this science with the AI algorithms in order to co-opt my aboutness without paraconomy. Now, this is why I had to get paraconomy involved, is because the world wasn't going to stop. And because they don't look at the problems that they have at their fingertips, which is connecting over social media and fiscally in person. Now, this helps teach you how easy it is to do all of this with money. Now, much, much easier because you can just pay people to do what I'm doing for a nominal fee now via PARACONOMY Inc. and the time date stamping that I'm offering into Synchronicity. Now, it's all on the intellectual function and property of line statement and how long the function would take to play out. So we have an A beginning and a to Z an ending, and you have the whole slew of variables in between during the equation. Now, this is why I'm looking at the synchronicities of, yep, this is the time that I got caught up with this, and now I can't get this way about my bank accounts. Or if I hear it over the telepathic clairvoyancy that these crystals are being utilized and co-opted over, it makes as much of a sense that the change is night and day over my well-being. Now, I'm having current family members utilize this crystal telepathy against me as we speak today without, and they have the clearance to help me out. However, they're being obstinate and stubborn, doubling down on any of the agreements that they are trying to pass by me without the conversations and luxuries of niceties they have bestowed upon my older sister. Now, when the maturity level states that what they've done is not very professional as central bureaucracy and office workers for the state, knowing that not thinking I would get this good at finding out answers and looking for clues and getting to the bits on the centering of their injustice. So as you can see, as my status as the first Hawaiian male born off reservation here in Michigan, we have a problem because they displaced me using money and really greedy governmental funding techniques and tactics to annex my land. So they use these, tactics to gain access and footing on my behalf without me ever having to consent about these things. So if this is all play out and rigmarole on what it is that these people are attempting to formulate against all of you, because the lies worked so well for me for so long, it makes sense that the algorithms online and on Facebook, Meta, X, Blue Sky, all of the above, YouTube, Google, Amazon, all of these big elite executives all reside in transparency on ad space. So the more they buy, the less they have to worry. However, because ad space is not a static purchase, they have to continue to analyze the algorithm based on what it is that I'm doing. Now, I have not approved to this. I did not consent to it. And they've co-opted PARACONOMY Inc., utilizing this crystal and the First Amendment right of speaking natural verse and law into order, and doing the third thing that I don't have. They can buy these things into agreements where I have to scoot a loot a boot. They can just throw money at the fire and it does what it's supposed to do. So, seeing that they're coupling this with a lot of more lies, it seems like they're at their wits' end. And this is triangulating my old friends out and colleagues out in Chicago. This has got the Nesbitt family on board on Kansas City. This gets the Capadeas family from Boston and down south. This also gets a bunch of my friends surrounding Kate, Don, Haley, Joel, and Kenny, or whatever his name is, and a couple of other people here who squeak out of the front. I think Carlos Ramos fills into that this weird triangulation that killed my ex, something I didn't want to have happen. But these are all really close people. Now, the color coding is the next weird part of trying to figure out the triangulation. Is all these things that Meta is showing me gets confused but also litigated throughout the day. So as the day changes and as exposure to civilian information is occurring at the times they're occurring, 11:52, we are able to find out how much clearance they didn't receive to take footing on the actions that they don't deserve. So the cause and effect is that they're looking for the money at the end of the crime. And that's something that they're only able to do if they play by the rules. And as these stoic religious shunners and office bureaucrats utilize the standardization against many of you, they're trying to do it against someone whose birthday is right smack dab on the holiest holiday and the last holiday of the year. So that's one big reason why you could look at what that got co-opted and how many times people have celebrated my birthdays, 34, without me. And for which those birthdays get co-opted as their privilege. So if I was whitewashed out of history because my mom and the Mellish family and the Ellis family and the O'Neills and all these other different family members are also in cahoots with this Midwest 4-H club and computer like PSYOP Vegas delete in Silicon Valley, it makes as much sense that just a few clicks, our military can clock in and kind of finesse the rest of this whole endowment or gerrymandering of whatever it is that is being put on display for each and every one of these people. Now, because it's so simple that it's a trickle down of hierarchical power and design, it makes sense that enough people are jumping in on just bullying me. So, as for civilian disclosure, it's simple that you can see the people are understanding their roles and that they've been lied to. And it's a little late for people to be able to take care of their crystal magic and how it escapes from the 3D to the 5D. So if more people, if they decided to roll out this agenda where you are allowed to virtue signal and create a little bit of confusion, and for weaponized confusion on Freemasonic type of Illuminatic staging, it makes as much sense that most people would follow suit, especially when there is a high risk of indoctrination and propaganda here in this country. It's too easy. So I woke up to the chance of being able to talk about my freedom here in this country, and it came at the risk of my bank account and my partner. And they're freezing my things, they're changing my stuff. And so I had to free up enough money to start Paraconomy, something that isn't as leaked out on information, but still is volatile. And that's where it's getting less volatile because it is simply a corporation. Now, this is something where we fall into the hedge funds and the trust fund children's on the 401ks and what my Social Security does in intellectual function. So if there was supposed to be an amount of Social Security that I was supposed to receive by 34, I have not received that yet. And if the state's supposed to come clean about its legislator, then it is clear as fact they're utilizing their judicial branch to shroud me in this conservatorship. So if that's a fact and they're simply using civilians like my neighbor Sadie and some of my old colleagues, Jessica Miller and Kat and Sammy, and their parents are all very keen on them being the switcher zoomer generation that flips them from being liberal millennials into conservative alphas. It makes sense that they just want to follow mommy and daddy's rules to get mommy and daddy's money. Now I'm 34. How many Christmases have you gotten to celebrate? And how many birthdays did you get to take away from me? That's kind of the next phasing of why it's so ridiculous to bring up the fact that this is a lot of money. And if there's a death involved, whoop, this is already going up because we have international espionage on a dual state ambassador. Hawaii just burnt down. California burnt down. We have a couple of other things that I've prayed for and blessed in the world. One of them being the Titanic sub. I blessed my grandfather's knife on the billionaire sub to hope that they would find people, because that's an ugly death. And because of this, they ended up finding hundreds of Haitian bodies in the water, and they didn't disclose that as widely as they did the story about the billionaires. And because that had everybody's attention, they were able to fool you into praying for some of it. And while that was happening, they took care of this miracle that, in my likeness of Jesushood, may or may not have synced up with the telepathic line on what's available for sacred objects such as crystal magic. So if this leads to the flattening of the curve and creating a finite curve in time space, because it's alluding to this quantum light speed photon radiation and resonancy between what light speed can do to these crystals, it makes as much of clear as a day to me that data is something that is being articulated and re-articulated against the finite curve and what can be done to manipulate reality. This leads to the DNA RNA dream machine sequence of what the government has available for these telepathic scapegoating tactics that they could be using to refute the world from ever acknowledging the truth of what my status is as a Jesus person, Buddha, on witness protection here for a conservatorship with zero likeness on their behalf, because what they're saying is that it's a no-go. I'm volatile as an angry man, which everybody gets angry. But we're talking about a case of a trans person and a trans person, and the only difference is one's marked female and one's marked male. Now, this sounds like an argument my Uncle Adam Ellis would be way too born, like he'd be horny for it, okay? It sounds like a conservative's wet dream, and I wouldn't be surprised, excuse my language, but it does seem like they're like, oh, I want to see the two trans people fight it out. And because there's jail and the bar online, people have been betting on my case and to see how long we can subdue my name in jail without the scripts. Now, this landed me in jail twice. Once from them putting me there, after freaking me out and sending me on the run down to Florida. I blessed Florida, and then came back. I blessed DC, came back, okay? Then they throw me in jail on a warrant that I had very little clue about. No one told me. I found out by social media and then calling up a lawyer, left a message. That lawyer called me back and informed me right before my birthday that year at 2022 that in fact I had a warrant out for my arrest. Now it's 2025, and I believe that they're going to run another arrest here yet again if this keeps playing out, seeing as though it's a petty crime and people get off with domestic violence. Now, this is a case. We'll go into the case. This person lived here rent-free, ate here, bathed here, clothed here, took care of themselves here. Rent-free, completely on my dime. This person needed to get off of Xanax. I opened up my house after I just flipped two very ungrateful people. And it shows that because this played out, that it's starting to look like there's too many loose ends, and we can go straight to the people who put this squarely on my legacy, PARACONOMY Inc. And that's how I understanding the conservatorship looks on the gravelly part of this grading, because they're attempting to grate me over the coals on some things that don't look right. I housed this person, and this person was unwell. My mother housed mental patients in her teenage years to her 20s. And if it falls off as she moves out of the house and starts working at Kmart. Now, this is back in the 70s and 80s, back when Kevorkian was still alive, and she used to see the Kevorkian truck. Now, it's not too far-fetched here when you start looking at the claims to fames that my family's ridden out, that it wouldn't just be right here, clear as day. Now, the divisive argument of deceiving somebody here over a few misplaced strudels, so to speak. We found the facts were placed squarely on those involved. And so while you go look at what I'm doing, housing unwell people, what happens? They react to things because they're unwell. This caused 8 to 9 physical altercations. Cassie had indeed started. Every time she started, I would say, stop. And as you could imagine, each month they got worse. I started still getting confused, but like, get out of here. Finally, now what would you do here? She came in here and slapped me. This was straight up like, I don't want you around. This wasn't just like, get away from me, like type like of like stop taking your pills, and like she just like pushing me. This was a straight assault ass slap across the face. I got a concussion. Now I was mad. I got a concussion Wasn't even knocked out, but my eyes were boggling for a second. I know it affected some things here. And I didn't get any justice for that, seeing as though what it looks like is I'm lying about being trans. And because I had two other people that don't like boys, okay, come in here and agree with the unwell person because they all live in this town, and I'm from Lapeer. I went to school in Chicago, and I brought back a lot of art school stuff, hoping I could run an art loft at some point with a bunch of people who were open-minded and could show me to cool, liberal, antic friends who are into niche things like I am, like music, something I've been trying to do this whole time. Now, how did I end up going from music and wanting to be a rock star to releasing civilian disclosure on goddamn rocks? So that's kind of where you gotta start drawing the pointilage here for all the way from the wrongdoings and the correct doings, and then what people are doing in between. This seems to be like a lot of bull crap that's been put into this crystal stuff. Now, I've watched this stuff get big alongside of your PC culture and the rich kids doing whatever the hell they wanted to do the entire time. And it seems like it did get out of hand for this whole idea of what you can do with money, and that's murder people. Something that happened on all of these gay people's watch. All right. So if that's the blood that got spilled on a family, and there's some racism peppered in, sexism, turfism, if there's like a slew of other things, I'm still public enemy number one. Professor Fun 101, fun on the run. All right. And nobody seems to get this part. I'm still doing the damn thing. So I don't get what isn't being disclosed on other people's ends, other than the fact this hasn't hit YouTube yet. I'm curious. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, send me a follow and a message, and I'll try to get back to you if you have any loose ends on what you think may or may not be going on here in the world of Professor Fun at PARACONOMY Inc. If you have any clues, this could help open up new realms of paranormal investigation, something my company is here to work on. And because we are trademarked and relative towards the civilian disclosure information and what can be utilized for paranormal activity, we also own the rights to all of these things that we're using co-opted by other people who celebrate my birthday. Now, that's a tricky one because a lot of you guys celebrate Christmas, and you don't want Christmas to be called Pervert Murderer. What's grandma's season gonna look like if Christmas is all of a sudden, we can't call it Pervert Murderer, we gotta call it slave time. So now you understand that, well, if I were to roll out this, hey, if you have my likeness, I can do whatever I want with it. 2025 just rolled out the project, and we just voted that guy in. I don't want to say that word, but we voted that guy in. Hey, here's some weird stuff. Have some slaves. Weird. It's like, yeah, you're half white. Your mom's side owned indentured servants way back when, remember? So you're just going to roll that out for good old Grams and Gramps, even though you're the first Hawaiian. So this is where it gets weird, because you start looking at a history of Hawaii, and those Hawaiians got black-faced, okay? And this is the difference. I wouldn't exist if my dad didn't come from Hawaii during World War II, and my mom wasn't already here from a second to fourth to seventh generation European immigrants. And as we build along the legacy of my grandpa's bootlegging history and my grandmother's O'Neill history, it makes as much of a sense that they're also lying about their race culture. Because from what I understand, there's a bit of black Irish being peppered in. So it gets there's a little science here as to what's going on, because if Sadie's Latino and I'm also Latino, but we're two different types of Latin, then it makes sense that my Filipino roots get co-opted as well over the Spanish Puerto Rican side, because I also have a little bit of this thing going on with my Puerto Rican. I'm Polish, English, Hawaiian. I'm a lot, but there's a lot of loose ends, and 23andMe has the answers on both sides. And this is a big difference and weird part of them utilizing my likeness along the sides of coopulation for the codex on my RNA and DNA. Now, if this is also on the dark web, who knows what type of likeness, because my father's information was also surfaced with a lot of mine. Now, if that's the keying into what's being utilized to block me or remove me from the general lexicon in social media, there's a back wall that wants me to be injustice. They want me to find my injustice and gain the balance over the bar, so that way I can utilize it to find freedom. And so this is the hardest part of why my record is the way it is. My mother and the state of Michigan were very apt to say, no, weed is illegal, right as they were legalizing it. And since then, my family has been attempting to get me caught up in the system to teach me a lesson about marijuana and why medical marijuana never should have been legalized. And this is a big hurt for Michigan, one of the first states that legalized marijuana, because I moved back home to get on that trend for magic mushrooms. This didn't bode well with my religious secular mother and father, Nazarene Baptist. Okay. These people were not impressed with the amount of information that I'm basically doling you guys out here today on Paraconomy, and how it led to these other things that nobody wanted to take the time to intellectually fill in blanks on. So while I'm able to utilize this access of giving throughout my divinity as a Jesus proxy even, it's a little bit too much of a lookalike on whatever it could potentially added to back before we could have stopped the death of Kate Vogel. Now, this happened on my birthday. They didn't have to do this, but this is as recent as a few weeks ago when it happened. And as we can see, these people still want to bully me. The last thing they're attempting to do is come clean about a load of war crimes that could end up surfacing at the Supremes. Something that's really capable right down the street. I live about 10 blocks from the Capitol building. I can walk there. I walk home from jail every time they take me. Funny, huh? It doesn't seem like this is something you should be taken to jail over again and again and again, seeing as though there's plenty to listen to on my end. Now, if my end isn't being taken seriously because there's a bunch of bad rumors due to a few lies, this starting to feel more like a smear campaign, one of a catastrophic cacophony. And that's one big reason why I have to go live here on YouTube, to make sure that my likeness isn't filed off this year at 2025, where we could put the kibosh to a lot of these issues together if we were to surface this on the generals and the courts, and having people not only give their opinion about how this accident feels very clumsy and selfish, but also how the results of cause and effect played into this synchronicity. Now, this is why it's in my jurisdiction, because if that and my court judges are utilizing sex magic in the courtrooms and dumping a lot of problems and cases to the wayside for a few bucks on temperance, I wonder what is going to happen to some of you. This is why I'm doing civilian disclosure, because this was way too easy to do to a nice guy like me. Now, the problem is I have gotten angry with people because I've been forced to live with them without any help, okay? A lot of my colleagues and friends got to move back home. They got to live with their families and friends. They got to stop pretending they're something they're not. I was forced away from that. And I was told I wasn't allowed to until I came back with a degree. I was not able to pass my college classes effectively due to the falling out and the real life struggles that I was facing between me and my partner, Kate. Something I had to break free from in 2013, which led me down this rabbit hole of psychedelia and candy flipping with LSD and MDMA at music festivals all by myself, where I was able to network and find people who had also been in the same group with me as like the first fleet of Android users. They have my data from back in 2010, 2009 even, I believe is the first fleet, because there was a phone change on getting I believe it was an Envy. It was a new model, and it wasn't as good. It wasn't even that. It was like, you're broke, and it was like, because you're the littlest, you get the cheap phone. What are you gonna need it? And they made a big deal to like just black sheep me. I've been black sheeped my entire life. So if this is a big, long, draw-out case of whitewashing from day one, but also like Christian washing and being like, it's impossible for you to be a magical Jesus entity or some Christmas gift, because that's just not how the Baptists or the Anabaptists or the Nazarenes all agree into how that works. And so if there was, unless there is, and they don't like to talk to me as openly and nonchalantly because it's blasphemous. So if that's all that's going on, I'd like to take a moment just to catch you guys up on a few things. Crystals, magic, and 5D, all telepathic, and there's a lot of likeness here, both on this planet and others. I own a few other planets. I also have aliens from those planets. I also have your likeness in other aliens on some of those planets. So that's something that needs to be looked at into how I got that information from my dreams and from dying. I've died. Came back to life. No one noticed. And they did it on the wrong holiday. Halloween. They couldn't even wait till Easter. So I'm a little skeptical, and you should probably be too, because if this crystal magic was able to be like, we found Jesus, he's talked to aliens, let's kill him. If that like somehow was able to connect and something neurosynapse synchronicity and someone pulled the trigger on it, I'm left holding the bill knowing things, because I've been talking about them plainly for quite some time. Came out to it about 10 years ago in 2014, 2015, 2016, talking to my parents like an adult. And we had one particular conversation after another. Now, this seems to have been the reason why my parents have shunned me, because I let them know the molecular dispersion of what psychedelics were able to unlock here with me how it led to some of my clairvoyancy. They did not like this, and it was the last thing that they actually wanted to talk about. So, because that got too far out of hand, they thought they'd take this into their own hands, thinking that you got into another fight, and so, we did check in, and so. But this ended up leading to my understanding that the landlord is sleeping with my sister. And that's not a coincidence. The landlord looks just like my sister's boyfriends. And I'm finding out that my mother sleeps around quite an awful lot because she's connected to all these other office workers. The judge who does these weird humiliation rituals for the state, and they end up having sex with each other and performing sex magic over some of these crystals with some blood magic because they can also afford to murder, something they did to Kate Vogel. Now, please feel free to observe the weirdness, take out any weird variables you don't like, and comprehend the cohesive equation of what it is that I've put here on non-linearity. PARACONOMY Inc. will be here waiting your comments, questions, quandaries, and pontifical thoughts as we go. And as you see, there will be lines drawn against my betterness and my becoming fulfilled because people are afraid of getting caught. And at this point, there's a lot of people involved, a lot of your friends and families, and people who understand the 5D. Yes, these neighbors, a lot of them don't have your best interest, and they'll lie to you and treat you like this, finding out your information via the ESP, via crystal magic, and using it against you. This is all I really wanted to take the time to disclose for the day right now. And as we go, please reconsider all of these different things about our state's espionage programs and how they're utilizing some of this alchemy and architectural illuminatic staging and all these other things to get these people caught up against their willingness to. And if that bothers you and doesn't bode well with you, stay off social media, go read a book and take a walk in the park. That being said, I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna go like switch gears a little bit. Time you guys out. I'll be back in a little bit here after I take care of myself, and we'll be back after this short commercial break. It's been good, nice knowing you guys. Hopefully they don't take me out in the next 5 minutes after I end this podcast here. But I think we've said about all we could say today for right now. While I let this one burn into your melons a little bit. These ones. So, yeah, check out the shirt. Woo, woo, woo. Look. I'm like, I'm like all swagged out on industrial. Yo, get you some. They make some really cool stuff. Shout out industrial. Co-op me with PARACONOMY Inc. And we'll see you guys next time on the next video. You guys stay classy. You first crib light. They said no, crip, no. Peace. We come in peace. We also come. Hey, crazy. You guys go get them. Guys, I love you. Bye.